Andrew McCART, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm here once again in Vegas for another big fight week with Dan RAFAEL. Dan, first and foremost, how's things, mate?
Things are great. We're back for a big fight. What could be worse?
I don't know, man. We're both boxing fans, so we're doing what we love, and it's a huge fight this weekend. I mean, I think we were here for Pacquiao Ugas, then there was Wilder Fury 3, or Fury Wilder 3, and now we're here for Canelo Plant. I just want you to do what you do and just break down this fight for me and tell me about this fight.
Well, look, it's a huge fight, number one. I believe if Canelo Alvarez is the winner of the fight, he's probably going to be the fighter of the year. He'll have fought 3 times in the calendar year. He'll have had 2 very significant victories against Plant if he gets it for the undisputed, which has never happened in the super middleweight division, whether it was a 3-belt era or the 4-belt era. Not to mention he also would have the very significant victory in the unification against Billy Joe Saunders that was in May, in an excellent performance in front of the biggest boxing crowd in the history of the United States indoors, over 73,000, broke the record held by the rematch between Muhammad Ali and Leon Spinks down at the Superdome in New Orleans that lasted since the late 70s. Not to mention he also blew out Yildirim in the mandatory. So, there's a lot at stake for Alvarez. He has said this is his biggest fight of his career in terms of what it would mean to him. Now, I don't think he's just saying that because it's the fight that happens to be on Saturday. I think he really believes that because he's wanted to be undisputed. That's been the goal he stated for the last little while, and he's about to achieve it if he gets the win. So, it's a very significant resume builder. When he goes in the Hall of Fame, if he wins the fight, that will be one of the first things, when they write the bio. Canelo Alvarez, the first ever undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, that will take precedent over having won the title at junior middleweight, at middleweight, even the one stop up at light heavyweight. So from a historical point of view, it's a big-time fight. And for Plant, obviously, it means everything because it's where he's worked his whole career for. He got that IBF title, and now he can get all the other belts in one night and do it against the guy that's not only considered pound for pound, but also the number one star in the sport, at least on this side of the planet. AJ may be the only one that could come close. So I mean, I'm so excited for the fight, for just everything about the event. Fury Wilder 3 was a huge event and a lot of fun, and Pacquiao Ugas, you mentioned, it's always a joy to see Pacquiao, and that, of course, if he stays retired, will go down into his final fight, which will be something we all remember. All that said, I understand why Canelo is a big favorite. He should be the big favorite. But I love Caleb Plant's I don't give a shit attitude. He doesn't, I've known Caleb a long time. He doesn't take it personal that he's heard our video, I think, or one of the videos I did, where I said I don't really think he has much of a chance to win. A lot of guys would get pissed off and would ignore you or not let you interview them or not, deny you access to their team. They would be real prima donnas and jerk-offs about it. Caleb is such a cool dude. He's like, I respect your opinion, but watch, I'm going to win, and when I win, come to me and tell me, tell me that you did it. And you know what? And it's not the first time I've heard that. I had a 20-year plus relationship with Bernard Hopkins, who every single time he fought used one of his motivating things was when media guys would pick against him, even though it was never done as a negative towards Bernard. You just maybe thought a little bit more of the other guy, and so I feel like Caleb Plant is in a similar situation. He uses the public notion that he's the big underdog to try to thrive off that. Media guys that he's known for a long time that are picking against him hey, I'm going to show you. I can respect that. If he wins, I'm going to be very, very, very happy for Caleb Plant. And if Canelo wins, same thing. It's one of those kind of fights where I like both guys. I've enjoyed watching them fight, both of them, even though they're fighting very much different styles. I say may the best man win, but I can't deny that I feel like Canelo Alvarez is the number one fighter in the world right now, and that although Caleb Plant is an outstanding fighter, I view him on a very similar level as a Billy Joe Saunders, as a Callum Smith, but all with great records, all with some good accomplishments, all have won titles. So when you pick the other guy, it's not a knock on any of them. And I picked against Billy Joe and against Callum, and now I'm picking against Caleb Plant. Just that you got the number one fighter, not only number one fighter in boxing right now, and the biggest star, like I said, except perhaps Anthony Joshua. He's growing on an all-time level. So is he number one in the history of boxing, Canelo Alvarez? Of course not. But he's making his way up the list slowly but surely. Again, it's like any of these guys that have great careers. People don't appreciate or understand how good they are while it's happening, and it's unfortunate that it takes time for them to be retired or maybe get older and maybe lose some fights where people look back and realize. I say to people right now, understand what you're watching in Canelo Alvarez. Realize that right now This is a man at the peak of his powers. He's the best fighter on the planet, and you should appreciate and enjoy it while it's here, because it's a fleeting situation. It doesn't last forever. He's got a few more good years, but at some point, that level of fighting is going to come to a halt. So appreciate what's in front of you right now.
Definitely, I totally agree with everything you just said there, Dan. Now, you mentioned Caleb Plant there, and that I don't give a fuck attitude, for lack of a better word, which is good, because we've seen at that press conference when he was basically outright accusing Canelo of drug cheating, taking drugs and stuff like that. I mean, he wasn't forward and coming backwards with that sort of thing. He was going at him with everything he had, and I mean, a lot of fighters do mention it, but they just do it on the sly. It's quite off camera a little bit, or they do it in like an article or whatever, but he just went for Canelo. What do you make of all that, and do you agree with everything he's saying, or the way he went about it?
I mean, look, to me, all is fair in love and war. When you're promoting the fight and you're trying to not only get yourself mentally ready for the fight, but you're trying to make your opponent uncomfortable. If you have to go there, and if Caleb Plant feels like he needs to invoke that situation that Canelo was involved with, a few years ago, then so be it. I don't agree with how he portrayed it. I'm not going to get into it on your video because it's just water under the bridge, but I've done extensive reporting over the years about what happened with his failed clenbuterol test. It's not a secret. He did fail the test, and I've said this numerous times, I'll just say a couple things. He passed the hair follicle test, which I find to be significant. He also had an amount in his system that was consistent with meat contaminations, which is what he said, and that's not my opinion. That's what the medical experts said from all over the place, including so much so that WHYTE, which sets the levels of substance that are allowable in an athlete's system, lowered the threshold for clenbuterol because contaminated meat, particularly in Mexico, is such a significant issue among athletes that had he tested for that same amount today, last month, last year, year and a half ago, whatever, he wouldn't even come back as a failed test. There was that little in the system. So, I get fans who are not his fans. Maybe they use that as a crutch to somehow diminish what he's done, and that's fine. And I don't have to sit here and defend the guy, but I know the facts. I've talked to any number of experts and people involved with this for years. He did fail the test. He took the 6-month suspension. I feel like it's an isolated incident, and Caleb Plant and Canelo have been VADA testing for this fight. Canelo has VADA tested for numerous fights over his last several of his career. So, again, if Caleb Plant feels like that's going to get a rise out of Canelo and upset him or whatever, then go for it. I got no problem with a guy trying to get the mental edge over an opponent. That's what they're supposed to do. It makes it interesting for the fans. It makes it interesting for the promotion, and they can say whatever they want, but the truth will be known on Saturday when they get in the ring. I mean, that's the way it always is with these fights. You can talk all you want. Doesn't mean shit till then they fight.
Going back to Canelo, then, I mean, you've been in the game long enough. You've seen probably everything there is to see in the sport of boxing, Dan. So for Canelo, if he wins on Saturday night and he clears out that 168-pound division, he's beat all the top guys. There's nothing left to do in 168. I mean, he did talk about Bertibiev, and he said, listen, I like to push myself. I like to set myself challenges and stuff like that. Is that a step too far, maybe, going up to 175 to fight somebody like Bertibiev?
I don't think so. I think, like you said, Canelo likes to challenge himself. I'll take slight disagreement that there's nothing left after this. There won't be any other titles to win in the weight class, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with being champion and defending your titles. I mean, when Alexander Usyk became the undisputed cruiserweight champion, he decided to stick around for one more fight, and he went to the UK and he fought Tony Bellew, and he scored a spectacular knockout and retained all the titles in the one fight. So I think there's a very good possibility that after this fight, if he's successful and wins, that he'll stay at super middleweight at least for another fight or two before he looks at 175 again, which is a possibility according to Canelo and to Eddie Reynoso, who is his manager and trainer that's highly involved in that decision process. I spoke to both Canelo and Eddie, both in the scrum as well as one-on-one, about those possibilities, and they are free agents broadcast-wise and promotionally after this fight. They did this one-fight deal with PBC and with Showtime, with TGB Promotions to get this Caleb Plant fight, but then they'll be back in the market after this. But they have liked the way that Al Heyman has worked with them, and Al does have some quality opponents to offer them. They mentioned specifically possibly David Benavidez, who fights next week. They discussed Charlo, who certainly is soon going to move up from 160. That would be a big promotion. So they look at that. Now, I don't know if this will happen or if it's something that interests Canelo, but Anthony Durrell is a former 2-time super middleweight champion who was fighting in the co-feature on this undercard. He wants to get a situation where he looks good enough where maybe the winner of Saturday's fight will maybe look to him. So the point is there's options for him among the PBC fighters.
Options for that's going to get the fans like what are like, you know what I mean, like fans get the fans want to get up for a fight like this. Like Canelo chasing every single belt has got the fans like, yes, we want that, but does a Charlo or a Durrell, Benavidez, yeah, that probably gets the fans, but do these names get the fans riled up and coming out in their droves again like we've seen this past year?
I think the Benavidez fight absolutely gets people pumped up because of the prospect of how much action that can supply. I think Charlo fight gets people excited just because I want to see Charlo tested also, and it'll be a good promotion as far as Charlo can talk very well about in the promotional game. Durrell maybe not so much. I can appreciate where he's coming from. He'd like the opportunity, but we got to see how he looks on Saturday. And those are just the PBC guys, But the way that Canelo and Eddie Reynoso have said it, like, we love Eddie Hearn, and we'd happy to work with him again if they can deliver us the opponents. I'm not sure who Eddie has right now that he could provide for Canelo that would make a fan-friendly fight that people would want to see. He already beat Callum Smith. He already beat Billy Joe. The one opponent that they talk about maybe is Dimitri Bivol. Maybe that's a possibility to go to 175. Problem with Bivol is his profile is so low at this point. He's a very, very good fighter, of course, but he hasn't really resonated with the fans. He doesn't have a lot of popularity. He's not the most exciting guy in the world, so I'm not sure that would be that big of a fight for Canelo. But Canelo also mentioned, we would work with Top Rank. Bob Arum, Top Rank chairman and big boss, he has never promoted a Canelo fight. I know he admires and respects the talent that Canelo has and also his ability to generate money. They have Top Rank was very kind to the team Canelo. They've been using the Top Rank gym here in Las Vegas as their training location. Top Rank didn't have to do that. They did that. But they obviously hope that at some point they could work together. And what's the big fight that Top Rank could offer him? Obviously, they promote Arthur Beterbiev. They are involved with Joe Smith Jr. They are the two of the light heavyweight champions. Beterbiev is unified. Joe Smith is a very exciting fighter. He has one of the titles. Going to defend it in the postponed fight probably early next year against Salamov. Beterbiev has the Marcus Brown fight coming up. He'll be the big favorite in that fight. You want to talk about a fight that get people geeked up?
Let's talk about a fight that gets you for Canelo. But what fight would you like to see Canelo get?
Well, I was going to say I'd love to see the Beterbiev fight. But don't get me wrong. I'd like. There's a lot of fights I'd like to see. If it was up to me to wave the wand and say what I want to see, if he wins on Saturday, you bring me Canelo versus David Benavidez. That to me is just a glorious night of fights. And besides that, I'd be totally happy with the Charlo fight. I'd be totally happy with him fighting a Joe Smith or a Beterbiev. Beterbiev, of course, would be a big one because he's considered the real champion at light heavyweight. He's got two of the titles. I know that Canelo won a light heavyweight title against Kovalev, who was a very, very big name, but had seen better days. Beterbiev is still, looking very, very good in his recent fights. Doesn't fight that much, but that's a formidable guy, one of the best punchers in boxing. He's won every one of his fights by a knockout, but he's also shown some vulnerabilities. He was on the floor against Callum Johnson in a real shootout, and he's been touched up a little bit. The beauty of Canelo's situation is because he does these short-term deals and he gets along with everybody and they all want to, get him, they'll work with him. He can make, as he has said, I want to make the biggest fights possible. And I believe him because look what he did. He left Eddie for this fight and DAZN, who he had no problems with, to come here and make this fight with Caleb Plant. Why? Because it was the biggest and the best opportunity he could get for various reasons. Financially, legacy, and the history of becoming the first ever undisputed champ in the super middleweight division if he wins. So if you're Canelo Alvarez and you keep on winning, everything is great because you can work, you get along with these guys, and any fighter that you want to fight is going to want to fight him because it brings the most money to them. You can make these deals. It's such a good thing for boxing fans, because we have so much stuff that happens where we all whine and moan and complain because we don't get this fight, we don't get that fight. The two networks won't work together, the promoters won't work together. Canelo Alvarez is taking it by the neck and said, F that, I'm doing it how I want to do it. I'm the boss man. I'm going to do a one fight with you. Let's make the deal. No problem. We'll work together. I'm going to beat your guy, and then I'm going to go and we can talk about the next fight, or I can go talk to some other company, broadcaster or promoter. He hasn't been on Showtime platform since 2014. He's back on Showtime pay-per-view for this fight. No doubt about it. He could be on ESPN with a Top Rank event. He could be back on DAZN with a Matchroom show. He could be, back on. You go with Fox if they do another PBC fight. But the bottom line is, Canelo is making the biggest fights possible right now.
Staying on Canelo, then quickly, a quick one on this. the reason that he's fought 4 times in 11 months and stuff like that's unheard of in this day and age. You probably remember when champions used to fight back in Barrera's day. I just spoke to Marco Barrera yesterday. They were fighting 4, 5, 6 times a year and stuff like that. Nowadays, you're like once or twice a year these champions are fighting and stuff like that. But Canelo seems to be in the gym Has he set like a tone for other champions to like be like, you know what, I want to fight in January, April, August, December? I mean, that's what we want to see as well, don't we?
Yeah, I don't see that rubbing off though. I think that I don't see there being a groundswell of other guys wanting to do that. First of all, one of the reasons Canelo can do that is because he brings the economic muscle to the table. His events generate a tremendous amount of money. Some of those other champions, while they're outstanding fighters, they don't necessarily bring that kind of economics to the equation where they can generate that kind of money. Number one. So Canelo, I mean, look, what's the slogan he has on his T-shirt, his hats, his company, no boxing, no life. He's in the gym all the time. He trains even when he's not getting ready for a fight. He's doing some kind of activity to keep in shape if he's not playing golf, and he just loves it. He understands that he's in in his prime. He's at his best right now, and he's going to take advantage of it, both in terms of, again, 2 things: making the money and creating the legacy. And he's doing both of them because he's making astronomical money. I think he's guaranteed like $40 million for this fight, and he's got a chance to make the historical accomplishment of becoming undisputed champ. So if you're Canelo, what's better right now? He seems very comfortable in his skin. I've had a chance to talk to him one-on-one a few times during this promotion. He's very relaxed, very excited but calm, if that makes sense, and just feels good about himself. And he's kind of in the moment. Like I asked him, one of the questions I asked him, I said, if you win this fight on Saturday, it's going to be like one of the first sentences in your bio when you go in the Hall of Fame. I said, do you ever think about the Hall of Fame? He didn't say anything for a couple seconds. He's like, I really haven't. For us, I'm looking on the outside, you're like, this dude's been a Hall of Famer for the last several years already. But I kind of believe him when he's like, that's not something that's like in his mind. He's like, if it happens or when it happens, I'm going to be super excited and, I'll think about it then. But I'm too focused on what I'm doing. So he said he wants to, like you said, he fought in December. This will be his 4th fight in 11 months on Saturday, which again, for a top star is almost unheard of. It hasn't happened for years. Oscar De La Hoya had like a similar run like that in like 97. But the point is, he said he wants to have another active year in the next year. So it wouldn't shock me at all. If he wins the fight on Saturday, we'll take a little time off, and then we'll see him back probably. This year he fought in February. Would it be a shocker if he came back and was able to have a fight in February, March? Look, David Benavidez, if he wins the fight he's got next week against Kyron Davis, where he's a huge favorite, and everybody comes out healthy, I don't see any reason why they couldn't do that fight for February, March. Why not?
Definitely. Going off this quickly then, Anthony Joshua, he was in the States a couple of weeks back. He was doing the rounds, going to Virgil Hunter's gym. He actually met Eddie Reynoso as well. What do you make of Anthony Joshua coming to the stateside and visiting these different gyms? I mean, I know he went down to Charlo's gym as well. What do you make of all that? Do you think it's a good idea for Anthony to maybe broaden his horizons and come out here and train with some of these US trainers? I
don't think it can do anything but help. I don't know if he's going to make a coaching change or not, or if he's going to maybe keep Rob McCracken and maybe try to bring somebody else in to be part of the team also. But I don't think there's anything wrong with whether you're a top champion or you're just a guy trying to make a go of it, to seek as much training and information and have an open mind of the way people conduct themselves and train and do things. And I think Joshua, understands his career is at a tipping point right now. He was able to get past the Joshua loss and regain the title. Got a pass on that. Okay, shit happens. Usyk's a different story. If he loses the rematch of that, I think his career's going to be viewed in a much different light if you lose both of those fights. So I think he realizes he's still young enough where he can, maybe have a number of years left in the game. But that changes need to be made, that there needs to be some kind of, something has to be done differently. And if it means going and working with another trainer, or at least seeking advice and some thoughts, I think that's a good thing. I'd be more concerned if he didn't. You know what I mean? Again, nothing against McCracken, but why you just lost in kind of a fight where you just totally fought the wrong fight. Why wouldn't you, as one of the best fighters in the sport, why wouldn't you seek out information to help your own career? I mean, I think at this point, Anthony Joshua doesn't have to fight in terms of to live his life comfortably. He's a wealthy man at this point. He's made 9 figures in his career, but he still has that drive. So go out and seek the information and find out, see what else is out there. It's a big world. Yep. There's a lot of good trainers, and if he had to come to the United States and talk to people like Eddie Reynoso in San Diego with Canelo, or with Ronnie Shields or Virgil Hunter, all 3 excellent trainers with Hall of Fame caliber resumes. Why not do it?
Definitely. One final one then before I let you go, because that's been nearly 20 minutes, Dan. We witnessed Tyson Fury win his trilogy against Wilder a couple of weeks back here in Vegas, but it seems like Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte have both said that the next fight will be against Dillian Whyte. What's your thoughts on Tyson Fury? You and Dillian Whyte, are you excited about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a hell of a fight. I mean, Dillian Whyte's been a top heavyweight for a long time. I know he's wanted a title shot for quite a while. He had the hiccup where he lost to Povetkin, but he got the revenge in the rematch. He's a worthy contender, and he should get a title shot if he keeps on winning. I mean, I didn't like how the whole thing went down with the Otto Whalen situation. I mean, if he says he's hurt, he's hurt, but it just didn't look good. But okay, put that aside. Look, at the end of the day, Tyson Fury had a time period in which he could make an undisputed fight with Usyk. That's not going to happen. That was a WBC mandate because Usyk is fighting the rematch with Joshua. So when the date that the WBC set comes and goes, which I forget the exact date, but it's going to be in the next few days or a week, they will then order him to fight the interim champion, which is Dillian Whyte. And I suspect that come the first part of next year, that will be their next fight. And by the way, if he's not fighting the winner of Joshua Usyk 2, what's a better fight in the heavyweight division than him against Dillian Whyte? He already fought Deontay Wilder. We don't need to see the fourth fight. He proved his point, I think, pretty damn good in the third fight. That's a really good fight. It's huge for Britain. It's the big fight in terms of a top champion against a top challenger. It's a good fight in terms of how it can generate money, it's a business. That's a very attractive, very promotable fight. It's a huge fight for the UK. To have a UK champion.
Might be here in Vegas, you don't know?
I mean, you never know, but I suspect that would be Tyson's homecoming fight. He hasn't fought in Britain for a few years. But anyway, again, you never know what Tyson Fury is going to do. He makes his own decisions and does what he wants to do. But I don't think he's looking to give up the WBC title, and that's going to be the mandated fight. And by the way, if the mandated fight is something that the fans are interested in and going to generate you a lot of money and make a big event, I have no idea why he would turn that down. I talked to Sugar Hill, his trainer, who's here in the press room because he trains Anthony Durrell, who was on Saturday's undercard. He said, yeah, if that's the fight that they order, then that what we have to do. Tyson Fury is not going to object to that. We'll fight anybody. So it's a good fight. Count me in. I like it.
Count me in as well. Dan, as always, it's an absolute pleasure speaking to you, my man, and listen, enjoy the weigh-in tomorrow. No doubt I'll see you around the media room, but again, thank you so much for doing this for IFL TV.
You bet. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, good man. We love you.